Hey everybody, welcome back to my top 100 games of all time. Today I'm going to be taking a look at 40 through 31. These games are all, of course, games I think are spectacular. There are going to be a few new entries, 3 new entries, as well as several two-player games that just happen to clump up here in 40 through 31. And so let's kick it off. I am a big fan, I should say, of two-player games. Always have been, and so games that rise to the top for me are particularly special, I think, for me. So here we go. Let's kick it off with number 40. Number 40 is Automania, which is a brand new game to this list, and it came out of nowhere really last year to impress me so very much. It's a game that has a lot of elegance. It's a Euro game, but it does everything it does in a way that does not bog down, and it is very charming and appealing on top of that. The look of everything, the sort of cute theme, but tackled in a silly, lighthearted way. The originality of the theme itself, there's not that many games about making cars. There's a few, but most of the ones out there that talk about this do so in a very nitty-gritty, getting down to all the detail sort of thing. In this game, the very first round, you can make a car, you can ship that car, boom. And that's what I like about it. It gets to the good stuff right away. You are going to immediately be making interesting decisions and making cars, shipping cars, selling cars, trying to get the most victory points, and I like all of it. They recently re-released the game with a new cover, which is fine. It was a decision I guess they made because it perhaps looked too cartoony or there was some confusion, but I think no matter which version you get, the game is fantabulous, so check it out. That's Automania. My 39 is a co-op game that was my 85 last year, so it's moved up quite a bit for me because really the more I play, the more I am fascinated by it. And this is Freedom, the Underground Railroad. A game that is steeped in history, but tackles that history in an informative yet light way. What I mean by that is it allows itself to be a game while teaching you something, but not being a preachy game like most educational, quote-unquote educational games tend to be, or they just lack fun. I think this game balances everything it attempts to do in a fantastic way. It is a tight, interesting, engaging, cooperative game. It is a game that you must make every choice you give yourself count, because a single mistake can be punishing, but I think it is just unbelievably engaging, unbelievably good, so if you're a big fan of co-op, which I am, it's my favorite genre of games pretty much, then you have to check this one out, Freedom, the Underground Railroad. My 38 was my number 25 last year, or last time I did this, which was actually 2 years ago. And this is one of the two-player games I was talking about, and it is an abstract game, actually. This is Czar, which is one of the games, the last game that they made for the GIF series of games. This is a line of games from Chris Byrne in which all the games are abstract and they loosely relate to each other. This one is one of the very best. The game has a lot of things going for it. It looks great, but they all do really in this series. But what it does very well is the setup is quick, which all the other ones, some of the other ones in the series cannot say that. The gameplay is extremely quick. It is one of the shortest ones in the set at 20-30 minutes tops. And the whole thing has a great push and pull balancing act where you start with 3 kinds of pieces on this hexagonal board, and as the game progresses, the weakest piece on the board becomes the strongest, and the strongest piece on the board becomes weaker, and there's this it's hard to explain, but it's this fantastic concept in which you have to be careful what you sacrifice to not put yourself in harm's way so your opponent can swoop in there and take you out. You have to sort of keep all three of the different pieces you have balanced and guarded, and the whole game is just unbelievably good. If you're a fan of abstracts and you haven't played this one, you have to play it. I would say this is required playing for anyone who enjoys abstract gaming at all. So that's my 38. My number 37 is a drafting game. Big fan of drafting as well. This was my 29 last year, and this is Among the Stars. Among the Stars is a lot like Seven Wonders before it, but this one has a theme that's a little bit stronger, I would say, and it has a spatial element to it in which when you build a card, the cards are square, then you are putting it on the tableau that you are, on the space in front of you, and you're building a space station. And so it matters not just what you keep, but where you keep it. And on top of that, each player has some special powers, like alien races that are in the game, and the rest of it is interesting as well. The rest of it is less original, I would say, but the spatial element and the alien races are very good. They came out with some expansions for the game that are also very good, and I'm a big fan of it. Ever since the first time I played, I thought, okay, this has a nice, quick feel to it. It gives me interesting choices, but the turns are quick. The whole thing has a cool management aspect to it, where you have to manage your energy on the board, you have to manage your money, you have to be careful what you pass to the next player, you're managing the hand that's moving around. The whole thing feels tight and well done, so it's a very impressive game to me. That is Among the Stars. My number 36 was my 41 last time I did this, which is almost the same number. And this one is another two-player game, quite possibly the biggest two-player only game that I enjoy and that I have on my list, and that is Claustrophobia. Claustrophobia being a sort of a dungeon delving game, with one player being the humans, and you are sort of these damned characters who have been recruited to go into these catacombs and into these tunnels beneath the earth to fight the other player, who is representing demons and troglodytes and things like that. The game is scenario-based, and so you can pick a scenario, and you will uncover the board by laying out tiles, explore, have some combat, have some dice rolling in there. But it feels, even though it's an epic game, the scale is pretty epic, the feel of the game is epic. It's actually a very tight design. It's really pretty short, and it is. There's not a lot of sort of, American style big monsters and all of this stuff, which I understand is partly why some people do not like the game. But for me, this is my style of dungeon crawl game. I'm not a big Descent fan. I tend to not like games like that because it's just too much. There is too much to track. There's too much to keep in mind. I just don't enjoy it when it's so complex. But this one finds a way to streamline a lot of those things. And some of the mechanisms in there are very innovative. The way you assign a die to each of your characters each round as the humans, and then that human has a fight and defends and movement depending on the die you gave them. But as they take hits, you shut down lines on them, and so eventually die faces stop working on that human. So once, I have my main protagonist has taken, say, 3 damage, and I put the little pegs that come in there on the 1, 2, and 3, I should not assign that character a 1, a 2, or a 3, because they'll be really weak for that upcoming turn. But of course, I don't have choice over what I roll. I have to assign my dice to someone. And it's very clever. It might be difficult to visualize without seeing the game, but it is very, very clever. And the opposite side is managing a completely different set of options. So you could even play a game and then switch sides, and you will get a radically different experience. I really like it. You should check it out if you like this style of game, that is Claustrophobia. My 35 is a brand new game to the list, also a 2-player game, like Claustrophobia, like Czar. And this one is one we actually played live some time ago. So you could go back and check that out on the Dice Tower if you want to see how this works. And it is Raptor. Raptor, a game in which one player represents raptors in a jungle setting or a savanna setting. I think it's a savanna setting anyway. The board is double-sided. And the raptor side is attempting to guard her babies, the main raptor. And the scientist side, the other side, is attempting to trap some babies for, I'm guessing, studies? Something nice, I'm sure. But the game sides feel different. It's very puzzly. The whole thing is abstract-ish, you know, but what theme it has, it manages to use in an interesting way while still being highly tactical. It's all about the tactics. You play a card from your hand, you trigger a power. Depending on what your opponent played simultaneously with you, you might get what you were hoping for. You might not have played the right card at the right moment. Quick game, very interesting. Again, the sides do feel different. Not quite as radically different as Claustrophobia, but still different. And the production itself is very nicely done. You get neat little miniatures. It looks good on the table. It's a quick play and a very captivating game. I like it quite a bit. Brand new game to the list, Raptor. My number 34. This is another two-player game, though this one is non-new. This was my 51 last time I did the list. Summoner Wars. And Summoner Wars is the game that keeps on giving, it would seem, a two-player game of dueling mages in which you are managing cards on a grid board. The game manages to feel a lot like a miniatures game, but of course the card itself represents the would-be miniature and all the stats are on there. You move on this hex board, or square board I should say. You attack the other player by rolling dice. You take out his characters. You attempt to take out their summoner. If you do so, you win. And when I say that it's a game that keeps on giving, I mean it keeps on giving expansions. There are many, many expansions to this game. And they are, as far as I've played, which is not everything, I kind of went up to a point and felt very satisfied, but everything I have played has been balanced, has been attractively produced, has been enjoyable, and has been engaging. So the whole thing is a game I'm very happy to own and a game I'm very happy to play. My number 33 was my number 18 last time, so it's dropped a little bit, probably just from the fact that it hasn't hit the table very much. And this is Mission Red Planet. Mission Red Planet actually had a reprint. The reprint was very well done. I thought it was fantastic. I would recommend to everybody who was intrigued by it to check it out because the game was out of print for some time. Finally came back. You're picking characters from your own hand of cards. You're not sharing a hand of cards. So everybody has characters, saboteur and a pilot and a soldier and things like that. You are picking these characters. You are then revealing them in turn order, based on the number of the characters. Some go earlier and they have a weaker power. Some go later. They do wonderful, fantastic things, but you might not be able to do it because you went after other players. And then you put your little guys on a rocket and you launch them to Mars. And the game has a great looking steampunk setting. You are controlling Mars with your characters. You are attacking other players on Mars. You are hoping to lock down the areas with your little people, and score that area so that other people are shut out. And after a few rounds, the game's over and you see if you get the most points. Quick game. Very engaging. I think it's one of my favorite area control games, and I'm not a huge area control guy. I don't think it's one of my favorite mechanisms, but when it's combined with that character selection and special powers, it rockets to the top for me, which is why it's so high on my list. I don't know. It did drop a little bit, and I wonder if that's just because there's so many games that have come out lately that are so amazing, and it must be because I did play the new one several times and I still really liked it, but it did slip about 15 spots here, so I'm going to say it's not that I didn't play it, I said that, but I'm going to say instead it's because there's so many awesome games that have been coming out lately. So I'm sticking to that story. Alright, my 32 is a brand new game, and this one has come onto the scene to be both beloved and very well hated. This is Time Stories, and the things to love about Time Stories, it's immersive. It's incredibly immersive. It's attractive. It does time travel very well. It is limitless, in theory. They can continue making expansions for this game, settings, places to send you, and the game will be fascinating, or could be fascinating, for a long time. On the flip side of that, the game is expensive, each scenario is not replayable, and I could understand how people would see this strange experiment as a failure. However, for me, I find it to be a resounding success. I think the game is revolutionary, really. It's a game that reminds me as a gamer that there are still things that can be done to revitalize board gaming. Just cardboard, plastic, bits on a table, and this game does something unique and interesting and very very new. And I when I first played it, felt reinvigorated by it. I really did, and I still to this day adore the game. Now, yeah, it's depending on the scenario you play, some are better than others, so I can understand how sometimes I'll play one and go, it's pretty good, but I like the other ones more. But I am always excited to play. And I can, for the foreseeable future, I do not see myself not being psyched at checking out a new expansion. So that is Time Stories. And then lastly, my 31, which was my 22 last time, is Ticket to Ride Europe. And Ticket to Ride Europe is my favorite Ticket to Ride, but really this spot sort of stands for Ticket to Ride as a family. I just picked this one because, as I said, it's the one I tend to gravitate towards the most. But Ticket to Ride has had many expansions, many different maps, many modules, ideas, while maintaining its family appeal and its sense of discovery, The game makes for a beautiful presentation, is a great family game. I've taught it to many folks who have pretty much all enjoyed it, and I think it's a timeless design, and it's definitely broken into that echelon of games that are classics or would be classics, will be classics in the very, very near future. It's unbelievable, and I really enjoyed it. It's a game that every time they announce a new expansion, also I am very psyched to check it out. Always interesting how they're going to change the game, what little tweaks they're going to put in there to reinvigorate it. But even if they do nothing else ever again with Ticket to Ride, what's out there so far is fantastic, replayable, and simple, and easy to teach and play, and still tense. The whole thing gives you a great level of energy and tension, and that's why I think it's so great. Many people's favorite game, really, Ticket to Ride. Maybe not Ticket to Ride Europe, but one of the Ticket to Rides. And so that wraps up my 40 through 31. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you for sharing with me my top 100 games of all time. I'm having a great time sharing these with you, and I hope you are maybe learning a little bit something about how I feel about these, or maybe even hearing about a game you had not heard about before. And so I will leave you with that, and I will see you again very, very soon. Thank you, and see you soon.
Z can be a little polemic. He stings like the 8th outbreaking pandemic. Z's got flavor in his top 100 games.
Lights, shower.
Z Garcia, voice of the people. Z Garcia, voice of the people.